Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work to Game. Brian and Chris here as a part of our live show. Just coming off again a killer of a topic. We really hope you check out the live stream about James Gunn. It was great. It was a great moment. But if you guys enjoyed these videos, be sure to hit that like button. Today we're going to be catching you guys up on all thing that was announced. And in the second part, it's probably going to be a two-part, clip. I'm going to talk to Chris about kind of censorship concerns, monetization. Will also be talked about probably in this video because generally the community has a couple fears because Amazon is the publisher. And I was going to say as the last segment, I do kind of wonder if Amazon ends up sweeping up HBO as well. Like they're just in an acquisition M&A phase. So that's going to be something interesting to see as it plays out. But Chris, I saw that you watched it and reacted to my Blue Protocol dev update summary number 6. So I don't need to like download all the information into your head. But for anybody who is just fundamentally curious, what is Blue Protocol? It's an upcoming online action MMORPG from Bandi-namco for the global community, not accounting apparently, the SEA region for some reason. That's an Amazon thing, I think. It's going to be published by Amazon here globally. And essentially it's going to be released on all platforms, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and then obviously PC, supporting controller support. And the devs first out of the gate commented that crossplay, cross-save is something they're working on, but they're not yet 100% sure they're going to be delivering on that. It also has a serverless architecture, basically drop in, drop out multiplayer. So there's not going to be a Blue Protocol server command for Work to Game when we're kicking back and playing this game. So it sounds a la very Destiny 2. But in terms of the content, we're gonna keep covering that, and I'm looking forward to playing it. But most likely we'll see the beta in the spring and a release in the fall. And what I would like to talk to Chris about as part of a discussion though is we've seen more about their monetization system. And it really almost directly reflects, until we go hands-on, I wouldn't say that if you've ever played Phantasy Star Online 2, you're going to know what the monetization system is. It does have a gacha, cosmetic, and mount system. And from everything that you've already seen from the video, Chris, now that I've caught, I think, everybody up at the key points, so that way they don't have to go watch like endless amounts of content from us, but they're welcome to like and subscribe. But is there anything that stands out to you as positive, negative? We have seen loot boxes not go away, and that's what the gacha system ends up being. And it still is a persistent thing, despite like I think a few years ago, it kind of felt like there was a movement to get rid of them, but that seems to have fizzled out. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, it's about trust, right? What is it? What does the company in charge plan to use it for? And can they be trusted to consistently do that? Mm-hmm. And so like Bandi-namco, when I think back to like my first experiences with Bandi-namco, Pac-Man comes to mind. And like Pac-Man is a game that is designed to eat quarters. It's a fun game, but its objective is to see how many quarters are in your pocket by eating all of them. And it knows that you have run out of quarters when you stop playing. But then like when I look at, we just came off the Game Awards and I look at like the Souls game and Elden Ring, that's a very different monetization strategy. We're just going to sell you a game that's real good and you just enjoy it as long as your heart's content. And so like, that's the same game. The other person in the room that has control over money and localization is the publisher. The publisher is Amazon, but specifically Amazon Game Services. So it has nothing to do with your feelings on AWS or on Amazon, the company that made Ring of Power, or on Amazon, the company that probably shipped you something to your door this morning. AGS has kind of been its own thing. And so like their big claim to fame right now is New World. And New World, from a monetization strategy, whether you like New World or not, they released a game. That game was not perfect on launch. No game is. They continually updated that game while trying to fix bugs, while consistently communicating, are now in patch 1.8, have dropped huge content drops, and have not really charged money for it. They do have a monetization strategy in practice, but if you wanted to pick that game up for $40 and just keep playing it, you could. And it's regularly gone on sale during these big like Twitch events and stuff where they try to drive hype to the game. And so like I've seen a lot of people get in for $20.
It's $20. Free now. Like right now at the time of this recording until the 19th of December, you can play New World for free. Somebody told me they had, because of me, this was a positive comment too. They have over 2,100 hours in the game and they've spent $40. And I
but
was like, yes.
At $20, at $40 at full price, because nobody should be paying more than $40. So at $40, knowing that theoretically lower numbers are available, at $40, just the like shooting rabbits, chopping down trees, and the voice acted narrative would be a full featured game. So if you're like, I don't want to do the PvP, I don't want to engage in game. Because we follow a $1 per hour rule.
Right.
So like Amazon, in my perspective, when it comes to AGS, has that ability for me to see, and they release new servers if they need to, and they communicate regularly. And so like, I don't see any reason not to trust them with the amount of trust that a game can earn in effectively, what are they, like 18 months old now? Mm-hmm. So like, there it is. They have 18 months of history. That's their credit score. And so when somebody comes in and says like, oh, but I've been playing, what's the game? You have some codes to give away sometime soon, right?
I do. Yes.
And so like, but it's a game that's like 2 months old. And so the amount of trust you earn, obviously 18 months, more than the 2-month game, will be giving away some codes, but less than something like Square Enix, where you may have what feels like a lifetime of interactions with that publisher. Because Amazon Game Services is still a relatively young company. But so far, like, I haven't seen any reason not to trust them, especially with a franchise that I'm not invested in. It would be more concerning if they were taking over 14, where I'm like, if they screw this up, I lose something. This is like, if they screw this up, I lose a game that I hadn't played. So fairly low risk. So I don't see any reason to be concerned with it being on the worst end of things. Like, I play mobile games, but I feel that Diablo Immortal was on the worst end of what mobile games do. I don't see any reason to think this will be on the worst end of loot boxes. So unless you're just somebody who's like anti-loot boxes at all, this is probably going to be a typical market average interpretation of what those are, which ideally is cool looking mounts, cool looking armor, in addition to the game also having cool looking mounts and cool looking armor available for playtime.
Mm-hmm. And AGS already does have a standing public, they published Lost Ark here, and that has led to some people like concerns, and that usually ties into, they're going to change how some of the outfits look. They're going to try and make this, because the AGS has come out and said they're not hiding it. They're like, we're going to make sure that this game has tastes that are acceptable to kind of Western cultures. And back to the monetization, we might have to like hold the censorship, discussion for like another video, another live stream show, because that could be a bigger topic in and of itself. We'll just see how long we talk about this one. 22 minutes later. But at its core, the monetization in the West and how we think of it versus something like where you look at China and Korea. I've been told numerous times that people like in China, like they're just like, why can't I just buy this, right? Like, let me just bypass some of this stuff and go ahead and purchase it. And that seems to be very acceptable, where like they have to continue, and we'll have to continue to hammer home that this is not pay to win. This is not pay to win. And that's going to be a natural concern, because I think gamers have all of a sudden, like, we know that like, hey, it's free. How are they going to get me? Like, you end up coming in more with this trepidation, as opposed to like something where in New World, it literally says $40 and go nuts. Like we're not going to ask you for money again. Whereas in something like this, it's like, hey, there's, like this, or there's that, hey, maybe you want to pony up a little bit of that moolah, and it's like, sometimes, especially like my only concern when it comes to something like the loot box specifically is that I've been playing the Hot Wheels game with my kids. Absolutely great game. However, one aspect of it is it's very loot box driven. And when it comes to the kids, they don't connect opening random box equaling reward. It is an exciting thing. It creates a moment of excitement because you don't know what you're going to get. That's why loot boxes were so successful, is because it has that moment. And they have yet to hit the drop in terms of like, I'm not getting the car that I want. We're not unlocking that. And then not having that option to go out and just say, hey, that car's like $20, as opposed to like, you can keep trying for this, this fee. And myself as a parent, I'm like, I wish I could just say, just give them everything. Like, I would rather just buy all the cars, and we can play with all the cars and have a fun time for one fee. Is it $100? Okay, great. Is it $250? Just pick the price, right? Like, and that's where like there's a parent relationship. And as somebody who knows people who have gambling issues, like I can understand, like, if you got a gambling problem, this is not the thing that needs to trigger you, but nor should that then dictate how the rest of the market, you know, demands are met, right? Like you shouldn't say like, well, we can never sell alcohol again because some people will have a problem drinking alcohol. Like there has to be a level of personal responsibility that comes into any monetization choice.
I prefer the a la carte method where I have a predetermined menu and I can see all the prices up front. And I know that I'm going to be purchasing each item. When you go to a fair or when you go to a restaurant, you know each item and how it's going to be priced. Or I prefer the price fixed that whatever that French word is, where I just sit down and it's a predetermined experience. Sometimes our city here in Dallas does like a restaurant week, and you can buy these coupons online, and they're like $50 or whatever. And sometimes like the nicer restaurants, it might be $50 a person. So then my wife and I have to pay $100 if we want to participate. And we did it once.
It's great.
And we went to a really fancy restaurant and they brought out and you got like it came with a glass of wine and it came with your choice of the following 3 appetizers and it came with your choice of the following 3 entrees. And it's like I knew what I was getting right when I showed up. Because otherwise those really expensive restaurants kind of intimidate me because I never know how much, and it's like $100 is a lot of money for a meal, but I know going in, it's going to stop at $100. I know that going in, I know the valet is covered. I know all of that's covered. So I know going in, I'm just going to have to tip the waiter at the end and I'm done. And I'm not going to get to the end and go, wait, why did it say 140? It's like, dude, what the heck? And so I prefer that kind of either all-inclusive mentality or the individual, but sometimes what you want comes from a place that doesn't have a monetization you like. And so like I have been invited to go out with friends I enjoy to charity banquets. And they said, hey, my company bought a table with 8 seats and we have 2 extra tickets. Would you and your wife like to come? It's a people I enjoy spending an evening with. There's going to be dancing. There's going to be food. It's going to be great. So I go. But I know by going to those charity benefits, while I love that they exist and they support charity, I know that those charity benefits in particular tend to be this like I get asked for money every 5 minutes because they don't just ask you at the door. And it's not just that your raffle tickets, the ones I've been to, like I'm just continually being asked to bid and then I'm being asked to donate and then I'm being asked. And so I just know that going in and I have a great time and I know that, but I like knowing what the monetization is coming forward. So if it's going to be outside of my preferred monetization, I still go to those events. And then we buy the raffle tickets to get the one random bottle of wine and trade for supporting some charity. And you end up spending $20 on raffle tickets to get a $15 bottle of wine, but it's fine. It goes to a good cause. It's great. But that monetization strategy, I wanted to know that before I showed up. If those friends had said, hey, I have this all-inclusive dinner thing and I showed up and then it was one of those benefits, I really wouldn't have enjoyed feeling like that got ripped out from under me. It's like, whoa, you just brought me here to ask me for money. That doesn't feel good at all. So I appreciate the Blue Protocols being this transparent up front saying, this is going to be something where we're continually asking you for money. And so, you know, going in, like I play all sorts of games on my phone, but I know going in that they're going to ask me for money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where you end up seeing the most kickback and frustration when the monetization system changes. Like you made a reference to like if Amazon all of a sudden started managing and publishing Final Fantasy 14, that would be like a really big concern because there is something that could be really lost in risk. And the same kind of concept comes is like, hey, I bought this game or I've been playing this game and it's been great, right? Like if all of a sudden within New World, if they just say, hey, yeah, now there's a subscription if you want to keep playing. Like, oh, wait. Like you said that they're like I could buy and I could play this game as much as I want. That would be something that would have like a very adverse reaction. Whether you get over that reaction or not is depending on your relationship to the game, the character, and more. But I think it's more important to avoid those kind of pivots, and so to have a clear understanding of what your game is and how it's monetized, so that anybody stepping into it knows the relationship. There's no shock factor value that where like in Diablo Immortal. Then you get to endgame, and then like you beat and then it's like, oh, now we have this, and now we have this, and now we have this. Wait a minute.
Tell me what you want up front. Just tell me what you want up front.
Yeah, define the relationship.
I would much rather that charity banquet be, would you like to purchase a steak dinner with your wife for $50 and it's going to support this cause? And I can say, well, a steak, it doesn't cost $50, but it goes to a good cause. I would much rather that. As opposed to this, like going over to your house and you say welcome. And then at each step you go, hey, so the wine was a little expensive. Could you pitch in?
Chip in.
Whoa.
Kitty Venmo.
Whoa.
Wait, what?
And so like, whoa, this isn't what I didn't show
Hey, Chris,
up.
come over. I'm going to treat you like a king. I'm gonna treat you
And
like
then
a
you're,
king.
and then I get some bill halfway
Yeah.
through the night, and then again
Huh?
at the end of the night, and then again you call me 2 weeks later and you go, hey, so the electric
That's
bill showed up, and I kind of need you to help. It's,
help out. Like, wait, wait, wait,
dude,
wait.
I
No, no,
don't
no, no.
want to go to your dinner anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Lalafell
so
says, I want to could touch on this as a final point before we give away these codes. Lalafell says, I feel like free to play is now equal pay to win these days. It's so rare to see a free to play game that is, to be fair, that is not pay to win. And where I like this is where these terms become so vague and personal. When we talked about gamers in this regards, I've seen people try to label Final Fantasy 14 as pay to win. I've seen people try to label any kind of thing as a pay to win, kind of flag, as because everybody's going to have that perspective. If your definition of winning ends up being something that is locked behind a paywall, then yes, automatically that's going to be connected. Traditionally, I always associate it with pay for power, like, oh, I can spend money and I can get more powerful. That ends up being where I would personally say jump potions and things like that are borderline, because we've seen people abuse those aspects, and so I personally choose to not engage with those systems and reward them financially. But everybody's going to end up having their own kind of value driven thing. My preference is always going to be upfront asking for some kind of money, but I think market, when you just look at the market overall, it is clear the winner that ends up being that free to play, not asking for anybody up front, really hits mass market really, really fast. And if you have a good game hook, like you take those two things and you can end up, instead of putting a limit on the money that you can make for making a game, you can make the amount of money you can make for a game near unlimited.
I mean, it definitely feels like free to play rides that line. They definitely ride the line. A jump potion that gets you to the current content, but then you still have to beat the current content, is very different than a jump potion that puts you in current in game with a decent set of gear. And yet both are labeled a jump potion.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very execution based. So when I look to what this is, Amazon Game Services is the publisher for Lost Ark, and Lost Ark has a lot of these mechanics. When you look at playing Lost Ark stateside, which has been well received, which is crazy because some of the public faces, since those are the voices that are easiest to hear, some of the public voices that have really been big proponents of Lost Ark and really enjoyed Lost Ark were people that were really frustrated at some of the very same monetization practices when they're done by different companies. And so it definitely says like context matters, because if you just remove that statement on its own, it looks like they're contradicting themselves. And I don't feel that they think they are. I don't think they're losing sleep overnight at feeling hypocritical. I think they feel like, no, I do think it's okay if my friend makes fun of my hair. I don't think it's okay if a stranger makes fun of my hair. One hurts my feelings and the other one I laugh at. And so I think they're saying, I trust this company to have gotcha systems, and I don't trust this company to have gotcha systems. And so it may come out as I don't like gotcha systems and I like this game, and those look like they're conflicting, but it's really about trust. And so hopefully it's handled like Lost Ark, where they can make things more regionally appropriate. That can have a lot to do with, you got to work within the laws. You got to work within what the market wants. A country that internet access and computer access is more traditionally enjoyed in a LAN cafe, it makes more sense for a subscription to be something that you buy hours, as opposed to a country where everybody has a personal device and constant internet access and prefers to binge hard in certain sessions to maybe sell monthly access. And then it maybe makes sense somewhere else to sell it in pre-purchased and it's offline play. And so like having regionally appropriate strategies makes sense. Prices can also vary wildly. The heads of Dwarf Fortress, they've had immense success, and they just reduce their prices in certain regions that have been hit by hyperinflation. Because they said, hey, just raw currency conversion isn't quite getting us there. So we're going to further reduce prices in a couple of currencies to make sure that people in those regions can afford our game at what we feel is a fair price. And that's just something each publisher has to navigate, and that comes down to trust. So, but yeah, that was my takeaway. Everything else was like, it's going to be a game, and the game's going to have content in it, and the content is being put out generically. So like, is it going to be on servers versus one server? Am I going to be able to play with a lot of people in a zone or a few? 30. Is that a lot or a little to you? Your call.
Right.
What are the kinds of things I'm doing? And they show an example of here's the kinds of things you're doing. And so like, those are just general like box statements, like when you pick up a box back in a store when we used to do that, and you read the back. It's just a description of what the gameplay loop is going to entail. There's nothing there that tells you if it's going to be good or bad, or if it's going to be something you've never played before, or rehash of a system you're very familiar with. Overall, I think most of the people's concern with Blue Protocol is going to be, is there going to be a lot of content on launch, or is there going to be consistent content after that?
Mm-hmm.
And how much money and how often are you going to ask for money?
Yeah.
Call of Duty is a $75 game, and the Battle Pass didn't release week one. I really appreciated that compared to some of the previous iterations of Call of Duty, where it felt like, or Halo Infinite, which feels weird that Halo Infinite frustrates me more than Call of Duty. As a franchise, I think Call of Duty has a history with being over monetized, and Halo, I played Halo 5 for like 10 billion hours, and they never, like, they had a loot box system that didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten everything from their loot box system naturally, except for the voices, and I don't even know what those do. And so, like, Call of Duty released a full game and then asked for money. Halo released a battle pass system, and it has yet to be a full game. So, like, I think, where is Blue Protocol going to fall in that? Are they going to start asking for money day one? Or are they saying, okay, we've dropped the game, let's get all the bugs fixed. After everybody's having a good time, I might come around with a collection plate and see if you want to put something in.
Yeah. To fund the game. And gamers will, if the game is good, they'll happily say, oh yeah, this is great. You're not, going through my pockets. Sure, I can chip in. Oh, I can get something cool from that. It's a great relationship in that regards. And that is how you build trust.
I've been enjoying Dragonflight, and people have said, like, well, what about frustrations over, 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago when they did something bad? And it's like, what's new? Like, let that go. From the same standpoint, I've seen people coming in and talking about how much they're loving Embers Adrift, and that's wonderful. But then they've said, like, this is an example of what Final Fantasy needs to do with 7.0. And it's like, well, those are kind of two different animals. Like, it's not fair to talk about what a game needs to do in like year 11 versus in month 3. I understand that right now it has no microtransaction store. I don't know if that will stay true for all of history. I think you'd have to be from the future to know that. I've said the same about New World. When people are like, what I love about it is that, it doesn't have any catch-up systems in it. Like World of Warcraft, where you have legacy systems that don't matter anymore and you skip over them. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense with an 18-month-old game. Like, WoW didn't have those for the first 18 months either. Give it time. So, there are games like Guild Wars that have proven they have 10 years of not rewriting old content too heavily, that help give me trust that when an expansion launches in Guild Wars, it truly is lateral. And there's 10 years of history that tells me not to believe that Dragonflight won't just fall by the wayside when we go in 11.0, and to just enjoy that for what it is. It's like summer camp. It's fun while it happened. It will end. And so it'll be interesting to see the direction Embers Adrift goes. I'm really glad that people are still making new MMOs.
They're pushing out updates every week. They're on holiday break, so the next the next update actually will fall in January, is what they've said, and they've been kind of interesting. They've been detailing out, like, hey, this is the things we're working on. It's all one server as well. There's some interesting things, and I've been talking to them about controller support because that's something that's important to me. And oddly enough, the sticks work. Nothing else does, and I've been trying everything I could to get it to work. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll just toy around with it for now. So, the publishers like the fact that I keep talking about it. I was like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's a general fascination with this game because essentially, in my mind, to kind of put a bow on it, it's my, oh, you want an old school hardcore MMO, but there's not any good ones? Put up or shut up. Like, if this, like, you don't have to end up liking this game, but if you're not willing to give it a try, and yet you're going to continue to tell me, like, oh man, MMOs were like, I wish they would make a brand new version of this, or like Ragnarok or Final Fantasy 11. It's like, give this a shot, put up or shut up. Because if all that is, if you're like, oh yeah, I want that, but not that one, are you going to try it? No. Like, dude, you're sending
If a future developer is thinking about making one of those games and they're approaching VC for funding or something like that to get them over that line and have servers and all that, or they're thinking about running a Kickstarter and they're starting to give out whatever to get people on board that can help them get it to the finish line, and then they go, hey, so I looked it up and 100 games like this have released and they've all failed. Why would they keep going? So it is important. I agree with you. It is important. If
market shows nobody
wants
wants
for something. If you ask for something and then game developers give it to you, the courteous thing is to take a sample off the tray and take a bite.
Yeah.
If you can't go take a bite, then I don't know why they made it. And so like I see people that are very frustrated with the direction maybe AAA studios have gone or something like that, but then they won't buy indies. It's like, well, you have your chance. So it's why you and I said, with Criterion and stuff, it's like, we have to try this because we've been asking for it for years. Yeah. We have to try it. Because, you don't have to like it. You're not obligated to like the execution, but you are obligated to try it because you specifically went out of your way requesting it. We only had a chance to ask a handful of questions to Yoshi P in person over the years, and Criterion was one of them. And so like you had been looking at taking a break from 14 for a little bit, but with Criterion on the horizon, you're like, well, I'm going to wait and try Criterion because I didn't ask for something 5 years ago so that 2 weeks before it comes out, I could say,
yeah. All right. Wrap up. And what are you working on the rest of the day, sir?
I'm going to finish the last 5 quests after Warring Triad. And then I'm going to watch this Jesse Cox Jailer versus Singer video. Excellent. And then you are playing tonight?
No, I have a family Christmas party, and so I will be probably do some stuff on Saturday. But then I've been playing Wednesdays, and then I'll be next Friday, which should be a lot of fun unless something happens.
I'm going to play New World next Friday, and I believe you're playing New World next Friday. So it'll be a New World channel on Friday. Next week, I'm doing Void Ark and Alexander as my 2 14 days. I'd also like to play Guild Wars a little bit during the week and some more World of Warcraft as I slowly get geared up. Maybe see if I can slot in with one of these brilliant players that are running community 14 player events and stuff. So I've seen like Rin and them have been running some Mythic Plus, and if they're just letting viewers hop in with them, I'd love to hop in and run some Mythic with them and give it a shot. I'm only in like I-340. I really need to be in like the 350s before I can. So I got a little ways to go, but I'm getting there.
Awesome. Thanks guys so much for tuning into the show. We'll be live again next Monday at 11:30 to 12:30 Central. We're going to be talking about Final Fantasy XIV's next hype cycle, 2023 kind of year in future review, to kind of talk about some of the things about hype and how it works within Final Fantasy XIV, because we're seeing a traditional cycle within kind of player feedback and mood. So we figured we'd kind of talk about that. Also, I'd like to, we will put the topic of censorship in video games coming up. That might be our Tuesday show. And then who knows, like Chris has been throwing me some suggestions for topics. So if you guys have suggestions for topics, leave them in the comments. Hit us up on Discord. Maybe we could bring the wheel back in 2023. I don't know, to be able to sit here and get some of that rocking and rolling for you guys. I'm going to hit end broadcast over here on the YouTube side, but Chris will continue on over on Twitch. So go hang out with him, and we will see you on Monday.